Hi there. Welcome to another edition of TokStocks. I'm your host, Keir Reynolds, and today we're lucky enough to have Matt Roma, CEO and Director with Golden Cross Resources. Trades on the TSX Venture Exchange with the ticker AUX. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Hey, thank you. Really appreciate you, accepting an invite. You guys have been very topical. Your stock's been performing quite well. I got involved a few months back. A few people were sort of chattering about what you have going on in Australia and whatnot, and excited to sort of have you on. So this is kind of a first look for us. So maybe before we get too far anyway, could you give us maybe like a 30-second sort of quick sort of elevator pitch on what Golden Cross Resources is all about?
Of course. So Golden Cross Resources is a high-grade, structurally controlled gold exploration play. We are located in Victoria, Australia. We trade on the Venture Exchange as well as over the counter in the U.S. And we own 100% outright of 445 square kilometers directly north and contiguous to Southern Cross and their Sunday Creek discovery. We listed the company back in April of 2025, so we're only about 4 months old. But yeah, the story has been very well received by the market, and happy to hear that you're a happy shareholder. And yeah, we're in the very first inning of hopefully what is a long ball game. And yeah, we're actively exploring in Victoria.
Excellent. I know a few companies have sort of tried to do that and have sort of gone other ways, Australia being a little further from kind of Canada and our Canadian kind of capital markets. How's that sort of work for you guys in terms of location? Doesn't really matter. You got a great team there. Can you tell us a little bit about the setup? How often do you get to ground?
Yeah, so I'm based in Vancouver, and one of our board members is Australian, and we have our VP of Exploration, Alan Till, who resides about 20 minutes from the project, and has a team with him. So we have boots on the ground, 5 days a week, and yeah, minus some phone calls in the evening, it's worked out very well, and I have nothing but faith in Alan and his team, and they've done a tremendous job. As I mentioned, we listed this company at the end of April. We're drilling by the end of May. We're running 2 rigs, and yeah, very happy with the progress the company's made in its short lifespan.
Excellent. Well, before we get on, kind of unpack a few of those things in terms of what you have going on with the company, why don't we talk about you for a few minutes? Maybe you could. You got a pretty impressive background, although you look like you're 25. I know you're probably a little older than that. You've got an impressive background. So, would you mind doing what everybody hates and talk about yourself a little bit?
Sure, I'll be quick. So I'm a chartered accountant by trade. I worked at early on in my career at Deloitte in Vancouver, specializing in mining companies, like everyone who does in public practice in Vancouver. Shortly after there, I left and went on to the issuer side. And in about 2018, started kind of in this venture capital, resource, junior mining, kind of building public companies and financing them and trying to advance them. I was involved early on as a co-founder of a company called Gladiator Metals, which is a Yukon developer, copper developer. I was also the original CFO of a company called Snowline Gold, which is a massive gold discovery up in the Yukon as well. And yeah, I recently kind of stepped down as my role of CFO there to focus on Golden Cross, and saw the potential here, and I'm very excited to wear the CEO hat and try to make a discovery here and move this project forward.
Excellent. Sounds like a great sort of some great experience to have. A couple of great companies there. Obviously, we all are very well. We know very well Snowline and have heard of that. Big success. Congrats there. Hopefully hopefully that changes your life a little bit financially. What are a couple of transferable sort of lessons or things that you kind of learned going from kind of the audit to the issuer and having a couple of good issuers to kind of learn and hone your skill set? What did you learn?
Yeah, I mean, more things than I can name, but ultimately, it's been it hasn't been an easy ride in the junior resource market for a number of years. So I think ultimately, in order to survive not only the good times but the bad times, you need to have a really good asset. And you need to be able to convey the messaging well to all types of shareholders and potential shareholders, whether they're overly technical or just the retail audience. So I think, both CEOs of Gladiator and Snowline do a fantastic job of conveying the messaging to the market. And I've really tried to take that away and really educate the potential investor of, not only the upside, the risk, but, what we have here and what we're looking forward to doing. And I think that comes down to, calls or interviews like this, whether it's news releases or, one-on-one conversations, it's, conveying the messaging.
Excellent. So we got the painful part out of the way. You talked about yourself. Thanks very much. Anybody else on your team that you want to sort of mention that you haven't already mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, on the board with me is Daryl Carty and Nick Rowley. Both have several decades of experience in this business. Have both been involved in key takeouts in the mining space, and have a wealth of knowledge. And yeah, I'd highlight them. And obviously, I spoke about Alan earlier, our VP of Exploration. He's done a remarkable job, and is living, breathing the project every day.
Excellent. Well, why don't we get into it? Here you can give us, we'll talk a bit about what you have going on the ground, a bit about your project. We can talk a bit about Closeology and Southern Cross. They've got Sunday Creek. You've got Reedy Creek. Some pretty good names there. And then you've had a plethora of news since you guys got listed. Again, you only got listed in April, but going and looking, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. So maybe we can kind of pick through that and really allow people to get a good understanding of just the opportunity here. So maybe you could, again, just explain a little bit about Reedy Creek. How big is the land package? Do you own 100%? How many sort of targets do you currently have identified that could be drilled?
So this is a classic Victorian gold type system, high grade structurally controlled gold. We own 445 square kilometers outright. To date, I think we've identified about 55 separate drill targets across the entire land package, with the highest concentration at an area called the Reedy Creek Gold Field, which is just under 10 kilometers away from the Sunday Creek deposit. And that's where we're actively exploring and have been doing so, essentially since we took over the project.
So is this like Fosterville style sort of gold? I guess epizonal gold.
It's classic Victorian structurally controlled gold. These quartz carbonate veins. What this area is known for is at depth the grade only improves. They're stacked veins. And that's what we can see from the surface work that we've done. We've been able to, what this area was known for was artisanal mining back in the late 1800s. And the old timers would get into these high grade veins and they would dig them out. And if they didn't find any gold, they would move on. Well, on our project, we've got several hundred old gold workings. And those ultimately, in our opinion, are forming various drill targets. And as I mentioned earlier, the highest concentration of those drill targets and old workings are an area called the Reedy Creek Gold Field. And that's where, based on, just on old gold workings and how we've structurally mapped where these veins look like they're running, that's been our focus for drilling so far. We've drilled about 2,200 meters there so far this year.
Excellent. Well, why don't we get into a bit about that? So just for investors, again, to kind of understand, Southern Cross, they've got their Sunday Creek, which is a pretty exciting discovery, which is about 10 kilometers from where you guys are currently working with your Reedy Creek project. If I'm not mistaken, I think they're at around $1.5 billion sort of valuation. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I think they've kind of been hovering around that like $1.3 to $1.5 billion market cap. So just a remarkable story for a company that doesn't even have a mineral resource estimate out. But it just showcases, the type of rocks in this area. They've got a resource forecast today, which in Australia you can do. In Canada under 43-101 you can't. But their resource forecast under JORC is, I think, 3.6 million ounces at 10.5 grams per ton. Just
Wow.
world class discovery.
So as investors, I guess we have to also prepare and understand what, some of these drill assays kind of look like. Fosterville, like you indicated, these are pretty high grade stacked vein systems. When I was reading through some of your online chatter to kind of prep for this and kind of get up to speed, there was talking about like laddering rungs on a ladder or something. Maybe you could kind of walk through a little bit more so that you could, again, probably help with some visual. This is just a conversation this time, but if you wouldn't mind kind of explaining a little bit about what that kind of means, and then what success kind of looks like, what we should be paying attention to.
Yeah, so credit to Mike Hudson, the CEO of Southern Cross. He's done a very great job of showcasing this ladder style geology and really kind of simplifying how you test it. But if you imagine you have a ladder and you turn it on its side, and the rungs of a ladder represent the high grade veins. Essentially, what you want to do in order to test these, if you're budget conscious, is you would drill shorter holes in the beginning. And look to hit veins that are stacked. And you'd look to intersect just the vein, and then you'd step back and drill another one and intersect, and ideally hit at least a few, if not multiple veins in shorter holes, and then stepping back, drilling a deeper hole with the intent to intersect multiple rungs of the ladder or multiple high-grade veins. And what this area is known for is they have these high-grade veins, but they also have a lower-grade halo material in between the veins. And when you have continuous grade of gold, running for hundreds of meters, if there's a low halo gold effect in between the rungs of the ladder, you can report one intercept at fantastic grade. And when Southern Cross started drilling these deeper holes and reporting these really lengthy intercepts at 1+ gram meter material, that was really the turning point for them. And when they went from a couple $100 million market cap to north of $1 billion, and quite frankly, they've done this extremely well, and they've showcased it very well. So we're following the exact same playbook. There is no reason to recreate the wheel here. What has worked for them, we are going to try at our project. And that's really the plan. And if I would encourage any of your listeners, if they want some more material, we do a great job of kind of highlighting both the ladder style methodology and how to test the ladders in our corporate presentation.
Yes, your website's very good. Lots of places to click around to get your deck, which I also reviewed prior to this. So yes, absolutely. I think important for people to go check that out. When it gets posted to YouTube, there'll be a link below to the site and to the corporate presentation, so you can get that directly. So a little bit about typically on these sort of rungs or these sort of multiple sort of like stacked sort of veins. What's this kind of distance you would typically find between these sort of like veins? Out of like 100 meter of sort of true depth, how many how many of these sort of veins would you encounter? Multiple, a couple? Like what are they sort of in terms of width, and how many?
Yeah, they can be kind of 40 to 60 meters apart, the veins. And if they have got that material in between the veins, it becomes a very economic deposit very quickly.
Excellent. What's the history of Reedy Creek? How did you get involved? Did you guys stake it? Has it been explored before? Has it had any historic drilling for which you might have some results from?
Yeah, so the previous owners of the project were a company called Great Pacific Gold, and they had this project for a number of years. They had done some drilling on it back in kind of 2019, 2020. It was not a core focus for them. The founders of Great Pacific were behind a company called K92 Mining, which I'm sure most of your listeners are aware of, which is a great asset in Papua New Guinea. And basically, they tried to replicate K92, starting a new company in Papua New Guinea called Great Pacific Gold. They also had these assets in Australia. And, when the market wasn't like it is today, they sent a team there to basically wildcat some holes to see if they couldn't create some news flow and basically, raise some money on the back of it. So I'll give the team credit. They had some very good success, some very high grade hits that they had. And basically, when we got wind that this asset would be for sale, they were working out of the same office tower as us in Vancouver. And when we got wind of this being for sale, we started to dig around and look, and we sent Alan and his team over there to take a look at the project, and came back with glowing reviews of the asset. And the way we structured a deal is we basically paid $1 million in cash. And we issued them basically 900 grand worth of stock, which was at the time when on listing about 6 million shares. They still saw a lot of value in these assets, but when the markets aren't rocking and you're a junior and money's scarce, operating in two jurisdictions with two assets, trying to move two assets forward, it's very difficult. So it was important for them that they kept an equity interest in the company, given if we have some success that, they share in that. And they've been, fantastic partners to date, and have been very accommodating.
The old Fosterville gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think after they'd already kind of made the pivot into Papua New Guinea, is when they had a gangbuster kind of result. And so maybe you're the benefactor of that, because they'd already kind of rebrand and said, hey, we're going to do this Papua New Guinea, West Pacific Gold, GPAC, the Great Pacific Gold. And so there you are. So that's how you got the project. So good stuff. It comes with some pretty smart people in terms of them and whatnot. I guess they'll be shareholders. That's good.
Yeah.
So in terms of again, so you guys are kind of a closeology kind of catch up play, but what are you kind of doing? Build your own sort of thesis in terms of this. Are you guys looking at additional sort of land acquisition? Do you have more than enough to sort of work on right now? What's sort of going on?
Yeah, I mean, we are a closeology play, I think, as you mentioned. But what I think is important to note is when we first started looking at this asset, it was almost a year ago. And Southern Cross was not Southern Cross. Southern Cross was a 250-ish million market cap company on the ASX, which was, a bit of an unknown story in North America. And the asset checked out right away for us. It took some time to negotiate a deal. But when we actually entered into a definitive agreement and closed the transaction, Southern Cross became, a 450 million market cap company by December. And then from when we actually came back to trade, I think they were over $1 billion. So it was just right place, right time for us, and caught a tailwind. And, it got a lot of people excited about the area again from an exploration play. So what are we doing? Well, we're hitting the ground running. We're not just, showcasing this as a closeology play. We listed this company at the end of April, and we were drilling it by the end of May. In the beginning of July, we added a second drill rig. We're testing multiple targets. As I mentioned earlier, I think there's about 55 targets we've identified to date that, we believe deserve their attention. And it's early days right now. But yeah, we, in terms of additional acquisitions, if something very strategic came along, yeah, sure. But, right now we're very happy with the land package we have. And, we're very happy that, Southern Cross has had the success that they've had, that just further showcases this area of the world. And, there may be more there.
All right. Well, why don't we get into your current work program? Because I think you had some important news today to add to that. You already had an exciting exploration program. So early June, not too long after you guys listed, you kicked off the 6,000 meter diamond drill program, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Maybe you could so how many targets are you looking to kind of drill with that program?
Yeah. So we launched the company and announced that we had a fully funded 6,000 meter program, with the first 2,000 meters to test the Prince of Wales and Wienerreuter targets, which are part of the Reedy Creek goldfield. And from basically the beginning of July, once we had clarity that there was going to be another financing, that we're going to top up the treasury, we added a second rig. So we're running 2 rigs right now at the Reedy Creek goldfield, and those have been really focusing on the Prince of Wales target, the Wienerreuter Ridge target, and the Shepherd's Hill target. the Shepherd's Hill target, we started drilling much deeper holes. So we've drilled 3 holes, average depth of just over 300 meters, targeting multiple vein structures. Similar to that ladder style example I shared earlier. So to date, we've done about 2,200 meters. Originally we were going to add a second rig in September, which was going to get us to 6,000 meters by the end of the year. Given we added that in July, I would anticipate that we probably do, closer to 6,500, 7,000 meters this year. But we have enough in the till treasury wise to drill well into 2026. There is really no, cash restrictions on the company right now.
What's the environment in terms of being able to get access to a drill rig? Is it relatively easy with it being such an active sort of gold camp, or is it more difficult?
Yeah, we've had no issues securing drill rigs. I mean, we're only running 2. If we were to go to Southern Cross style and be running 12, it might be a different story. But we've got 2 on retainer that we can continue to use.
Well, maybe next year you'll have 12 going, but we'll see. We'll see what happens this year. That's pretty impressive. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? Getting, two is quite a feat for a junior these days. So,
well, yeah, exactly.
That's good. That's good.
No, we're happily running 2 right now.
And you had a little bit of news on some stuff today. What was sort of what were you updating people on in terms of that?
Yeah, so the news release this morning was really the first time we had talked about Shepherd's Hill, which is an area of the Reedy Creek goldfield further to the north. So it was to highlight, what we're doing there and the meters that have been drilled to date there. And it's also to introduce a new area called Welcome Reef, which is an area outside of the Reedy Creek goldfield further to the east of our project. And it has a very interesting history. So touching back on the artisanal mining, there was a gentleman by the name of Louis Amui, and he had basically run a gold mine, an artisanal gold mine there, and produced something like 9,000 ounces of gold at 25 grams per ton. He became the richest individual in Victoria and went on to start and found Westpac Bank, which is one of the largest banks in Australia, from the proceeds of that mine. And no one has been able to secure land access to that area in the past. So we're the first group that will be able to do any sort of modern exploration on that ground. So we're very excited about that. The team is already on the ground this week, and that will see a drill rig later this year.
Exciting stuff. Good stuff. What's the sort of lab turnaround time in terms of assaying? How long, and what do you plan on doing? Are you sort of like batching? Are you going to drill a bunch, batch it, and then send it off? And what sort of turnaround time should we expect? Where do you send it to? Is it a local lab or a lab over here?
Yeah, it's a local lab. But when you have a neighbor like Southern Cross running the amount of rigs that they're running, we are not been a priority at the assay labs, to say the least. So it's been a bit painful to get assays out. But we've got we're starting to get assays back now, and we'll be batching assays and putting assays out. We're hoping to have a news release later in September, and with 2 rigs running and a steady cadence of core going to the lab and assays coming back, we should have much more steady news flow coming up.
Excellent. Well, why don't we go into something else? I wanted to ask you a couple questions related to a little bit more kind of the high-tech sort of nature of how you vector in and identify drill holes. There's something that 10 years ago you didn't hear anything about, but everybody talks about now is LiDAR. We've seen the mention of LiDAR helping a company like Midnight Sun with their copper exploration. You guys looks like you're utilizing or acquired some LiDAR, and then also you're working with a group who verifies AI sort of discovery team, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, worked on Sunday Creek.
Right.
So maybe you could kind of just touch on kind of the high tech nature in terms of some of the added tools that you can sort of use to really reduce that risk and increase your success with the drill bit.
Yeah, for sure. So first off, on the LiDAR imagery, so when we took control of the project and we flew this area with LiDAR imagery, it picked up all of the old gold workings that I mentioned earlier from the artisanal mining days, and that's really important because basically if you don't have that, you're doing channel sampling, and a bunch of groundwork that takes not only time but money. And by using LiDAR, we basically are able to skip all that because all of the old gold workings show up, which inherently suggests that there's veins there that need to be tested. And that's ultimately why they drilled Sunday Creek at Southern Cross. Is they had 6 old gold workings on the surface of Sunday Creek, and that's why they drilled it. And they are what they are now. So I think LiDAR has been a godsend for us. In terms of VRIFY, so they are an AI exploration tool, and they approached us early on to suggest and showcase their tool. And the biggest takeaway from that was basically they were a key part of helping guide the drilling at Sunday Creek. And we were able to use the exact same technical team from VRIFY that worked on Sunday Creek. So not only do they have knowledge of Sunday Creek type mineralization, but yeah, like LiDAR imagery, structural mapping, like all of that went into the AI tool for Sunday Creek, and we're basically, as I mentioned earlier, if it's not broke, don't fix it. We're replicating that at Reedy Creek, and we're very keen to work with them.
Excellent. In terms of like permitting, so exploration permits, drill permits, things like that, what's that sort of like over there? What sort of permits do you have in place? Is there more permitting that you need to do? Are you restricted? Yeah, go ahead.
No, so from an exploration standpoint, we're fully permitted and can drill and drill and drill. We're not in the development cycle just yet. Hopefully we get there, but Victoria has been an area that's been very pro mining. I think about 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, RBC put out a report that if Sunday Creek wanted to move to development and ultimately production, they would be in production by 2029. So very quick timeline for advancing projects in Victoria, and one of the key reasons that attracted us to working there.
Good stuff. And let's talk cap table a little bit. So, how many shares do you have outstanding? Approximately what's your insider ownership? Any notable sort of warrant or option overhang?
Yeah, so we've got just under 72 million shares out. About a third of that is owned by insiders and close associates. Great Pacific Gold retains 5% ownership. We've got 20% institutionally held, with our cornerstone institution being Jupiter Asset Management, a fund out of the UK that I think manages close to $77 billion. And the rest is in retail hands, about 45%. When we launched the company, we had to pay a $500,000 non-refundable deposit to Great Pacific Gold. So basically myself and my partners put up the cash for that, and we did that at 12.5 cents, a slight discount to what we did the initial financing on listing out at. And that came with a warrant at 25 cents. So all those warrants are in strong hands. And then in our most recent financing, we did a half warrant at 65 cents with the unit price at 45. So, all in the money right now.
Hey, good stuff. That's great. That's not doesn't always happen that way.
No.
That's a nice start. You just keep doing that. Keep doing financings and have them all in the money. People will keep financing you.
Yeah.
Maybe just before, so you closed on about 5 million, if I'm not mistaken, with Jupiter as a cornerstone. How do you know Jupiter? How'd they get to know you? That's a pretty interesting strategic to have.
Yeah. So, it was a bit of a funny story. Well, I don't know about funny, but,
Yeah.
a little bit shocking, to be honest with you. So when we went to do a financing, we announced a $3 million financing, and within a few days had north of 10 and got to $20 million in demand for the financing, with Jupiter being a big part of that. So they were introduced to us by Red Cloud, who's been a great champion of this story from early on. And yeah, they, this, what I think is important here is so many groups have made so much money at Southern Cross that to take an opportunity to get in at the ground floor in a property right next door has been a no-brainer. And I think that's truly why we've had, the trajectory that we've had and the money that we've had thrown at us. And ultimately we need to perform on the drill bit. But the good thing is we have so many targets to test, and as long as we do our job, exploring, based on our bench of shareholders now, I don't see money ever being a problem.
Excellent. I noticed that you announced, I guess you got a U.S. listing here on the OTCQB.
Yep.
Do you think that's going to be sort of like useful? Are you going to support it? Are you going to do some marketing? Have you been doing some marketing? Are you going to be hitting some conferences and doing roadshows and stuff like that?
I think yes to all of the above. We've been doing, everything we can to get our name out, organically. We announced a program earlier today with a resource stock digest that will kick off in September, which will be both Canadian and U.S. focused. We're seeing a lot of interest. We're getting a lot of volume on the OTC name. So this has become a story that's not only just in Canada or the U.S. It's become a global interest, and it's shown by our average trading volume for a story that's only 4 months old. It's the liquidity in the stock is beyond impressive, and that's just really getting out and doing things like this and trying to highlight the story and educate the market on what we're doing, and things to look out for.
Well, Southern Cross was one that I felt sort of got away a little bit. So here's the chance at redemption. So she's a good shareholder, of you guys, and yeah, I really look forward to kind of the work that you're going to be kind of doing here. So in terms of like news flow catalysts that we kind of expect over the next sort of 90 to 180 days, what's that sort of kind of look like? Sounds like we're going to have some assays at some point.
Yep.
From
Yeah.
the drilling.
So we're expecting some assay news releases coming out later in September, and then we'll continue to introduce new targets as they come up on the ranking for future work. But with 2 rigs running, and in Victoria you can drill 12 months of the year. With 2 rigs running, we should have a steady cadence of news flow. By the end of September and kind of ongoing.
Excellent. And what are a couple of things that keep you up at night? What's on your mind these days? What are as sort of ultimate
2 young
risk
children.
as an ultimate sort of risk manager? What are some of the things that are keeping you up at night? And then what are some things that have been really going well?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a very busy schedule, but no complaints there. I think, I'm sure you hear it too. There's talk of, oh, we're in a bull market, and it's going to be here to stay, and time will tell. It definitely feels like we're in a bull market. This is a market that I've never seen in my career, and I think we just got to continue to do what we're doing, and drilling is a big piece of that, and just continue to introduce the story to as many new people as we can.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you sitting down with us. So we're just going to do a couple of what I call a lightning round, couple quick questions, and then we'll sort of be done. We'll let you get on with your next very important meeting.
No worries.
Finish this sentence. By year end, Reedy Creek will have. Finish that sentence.
We'll have at least 6,000 meters of drilling done on it, and
All right.
And time will tell.
All right. What's the best capital markets lesson that you learned at Snowline or Gladiator that most juniors today still get wrong?
I think clear and concise messaging.
Hey, there we go. Don't have to say any more. What's the most overused phrase in junior mining that you'd love to retire?
Oh God. Going to the moon.
All right, we won't. We'll retire that one here today. And if your budget doubled tomorrow, what would be the first hire that you'd make?
You know what? I don't think we need a new hire right now. We've got a great team. And until Alan, our VPX, tells me different, that he needs more help, I think we've got the team to do what we want to do.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Matt. I really appreciate you sticking with me on those off the wall sort of questions.
No, I
Appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Really nice to get you on camera here and get a good first sort of deep dive. We'll get this out, and then let's see about booking so we can do a page flip, and we can maybe once you get some assays out, we can do a bit of a page flip and
Absolutely.
walk us through some maps and show us kind of where you're at, where you're drilling, where you've drilled, where the results are, maybe some cross sections and things like that.
You bet.
Matt, again, thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And on that note, thanks everyone for watching.
Thanks for having me.